What's going on, guys? Balkan Architect here, and in this advanced Revit course we're going to be covering the topic of advanced lighting families, and we're going to be creating this freestanding family. It's an interesting light. It kind of casts light both from above over here, from this side, as well as these sides over here. And if we go to rendering, it will look like something like this. So it will have two light sources, and I'm going to be showing you how to create both of those light sources. And for the second topic, I'm going to be creating this recessed ceiling light strip family, but it's not going to be a simple family. We're actually creating an advanced parametric family, and it will be line based. So you just pick 2 points and then you connect them. So if I go over here, and as you can see, if we zoom in over here, we have those little light dots in the ceiling. But as you can see, we can place them on any surface wherever we want. We just go here to architecture, component, and then we just pretty much place that light family. And depending on the length of this line that we create, that we draw, we're going to have at each 10 centimeter mark one of these light emitting diodes or LEDs. So without further ado, let's try to model all of these lights. So let's start off with modeling our complex freestanding lamp, and for that let's go here to families, new, and now let's choose a correct template. Now for this we're going to have 3 light sources, and as you might know, if you've ever created lights in Revit, you usually get 1 light source for this one. So we're going to start with a template that only contains 1 light source with this metric lighting fixture, and then we're going to be adding additional light sources to this. So let's just start off with this one, click open, and there we go. Okay, so here we've got this light source in the middle, this being a freestanding lamp. That's why we're just doing it as a generic default lighting family. And now let's just go into 3D to see what this looks like. So we only have this light source in the middle of the screen, and that's it. Now we're going to be making some changes to this light source later on, but for now let's just leave it like that. Maybe we can go to front elevation. As you can see, it's elevated a bit, so we have this light source elevation, and we can actually change it. Now it doesn't include any parameters. If we go over here, as you can see, we don't really have the height for our light source placement. We only have this light source symbol size, but that's something different. We don't really need to control that at this point. So I'm just going to cancel out of this family types dialog, and now let's start creating the geometry for this lamp. Now, this being the first light source, let's just place it a bit at the top. So looking at our final light, this is going to be that top light. So we are going to have like 1 light going like this, 1 vertical, and then this is going to be the horizontal top light. So let's start modeling. First, we can just set this height at maybe, I don't know, at 1 meter or 1000 millimeters in this case. The units are set to millimeters, so if I just go here to UN for units, you're going to see that we have here a length is in millimeters, and maybe we can change it in centimeters if that's what you prefer to work with, or you can leave it in millimeters if that's what you like. Now let's just do the top bar or top light bar, and then we're going to do the vertical one and the horizontal one. So for the top one, let's go here to floor plans, and here we have, this is our light source symbol. Now for creating this top light bar, I'm just going to be creating a regular extrusion, but for that we just need to create it at top of that light source symbol. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go here to set work plane, and here we have that light source elevation, and I'm just going to choose that one because it's easiest one to pick in this case. And I'm just going to go with a rectangle and just place a rectangle like that. Now we need to adjust this rectangle, of course, so I'm just going to select it and use one of these dimension lines that come, or these helper dimension lines, and just drag this to the center point. And then for this, let's make the length, and for the length, let's say that this is going to be 60 centimeters, the whole length of the top part. So for half of that, let's go with 30 centimeters. Let's go on the other side now, 60, because it's measuring from this side. And for the thickness of this, we can make it smaller. So yeah, let's go with 3 centimeters on each side, making it a total of 6 centimeters for the thickness of this light bar. Now, if I hit finish and if I go here to front elevation, you're going to notice that it starts off from this line and then it goes at 25 centimeters height. It's usually all extrusions in Revit for some reason are set to 25 centimeters or 250 millimeters. I don't know why that is, but that's just the default setting. Now we need to make some changes over here, and first thing I don't like to do is I don't like to have this light source symbol beginning at my extrusion or at the face of my extrusion or at the beginning of my extrusion. So I like to give it a bit room. So I'm just going to give it a start offset of 1 centimeter. Hit apply, and there we go. So we've got that 1 centimeter, and now we can set the height. It was 6 centimeters, the thickness, so let's go here with 10. Let's see what that looks like. I just like to check out proportions like this in 3D. So if I go into 3D, yeah, I really like the proportion of this, so I'm going to keep that. Okay, so once we have this top bar, now we can start doing additional changes. And the important part, the reason why we created this hosted on that light source symbol elevation is if I go here to front elevation, if I just select this work plane and if I change its height, as you can see, our rectangle for this light is going to be moving along. So our geometry is going to be moving along with the light source elevation symbol elevation. So that's the important part. It's easier to kind of create parameters later on if we want to maybe change the height of this lamp or something like that. So once we've done that, let's now do the vertical part. Now we can do it on either side of this thing. So let's just go into our reference level and let's go here to create extrusion, and then let's go with the rectangular extrusion. Go here and just place it like this. Now I'm going to attach it or lock it in place on these 3 sides. You don't really have to do it because we don't have any parameters or adjusting this thickness of this thing or the length of it, but I just think it's a good practice to always lock everything in place just to be sure. Now I'm just going to go to modify, select this, and let's make this 10 centimeters to make the same height, and then I'm just going to go finish. Now if I go to front elevation, as you're going to notice that it's going to appear as like this. So it's starting off from that same reference plane, just because that's the last one that we used to set reference plane, and that's the last one that we used in our floor plan reference level. So it remembered that, and that's where it attached our new extrusion. But I want this extrusion to be going all the way from floor, so I'm just going to go down to reference level and just kind of snap it in place. And then you can use this locking symbol and just lock it in place. And on top over here, I want to lock it to the bottom of this this horizontal light bar, the top horizontal light bar. So I'm just going to drag it down, and again, as you can see, it snaps. The whole bottom face of our horizontal light bar lights up in blue. So I'm just going to attach it like that and just lock it in place. Now when we go into 3D, as you're going to notice that we have this kind of ugly line going between these two, and I usually don't like to keep these lines, so I like to join geometry. So just go here to join, and then you select this thing, and there you go. So now it looks a lot nicer. Now we need to do the horizontal one that can go over here on either side. It doesn't really matter for this light. So let's go here to front, and let's see. Okay, so we can do it over here. So let's go create, and maybe go with an extrusion. So just go extrusion, rectangle, and let's create a rectangle over here. Now again, I'm going to lock it on both sides if we choose to add some parameters later on. So just lock it there. And for the height, let's set it at 6 centimeters because that's the same thickness that we added over here. Now we just go finish, and there we go. And if I go here to reference level, now we can make some additional changes because this, as you can see, it's attached now to this center. So let's give it an offset for that. So it should go from here, and maybe we can lock it in place. So it's got the extrusion start of 3 centimeters, but realistically we want to measure from this side over here. So we want from this face over here to go for 60 centimeters, and then it ends. So we've got this thing plus, so that's plus 3 centimeters. So here for the extrusion end, we're going to start with this 3 centimeter offset plus these 3 centimeters that we added over here just by moving this over here. So let me just undo that. Okay, so with that 3 centimeters as well, so we're going over here and we have 60 minus 3 minus 3, so that's 54. And just hit apply, and there we go. So now this is correct length, and if we go here with the measuring tool, just go from here to here. Okay, it's 57, so we need to add 3 more. So let's go with 57. Yeah, my math was a bit off, so let's just measure it again just to make sure. Yeah, it's now 60 centimeters. And let's go into 3D, so that's what it looks like. Now again, I just like to use join geometry for this and just join it like that. Okay, so now we have our light. Well, we have the general shape of the light. Now, I'm just going to set the material for this, so I'm just going to hit Tab key. So whenever you have these joined elements or joined geometry, you can just hover over one of them, hit the Tab key once, and you're going to be able to select the whole thing, and now we can set the material. Now, for the material, I usually like to leave it as a parameter, just so you can change basically this the material for this light housing. So I'm just going to go here to a new parameter, and let's just call this light shell maybe. And we can make it an instance parameter or a type parameter. I'm just going to do it in an instance parameter. Maybe you want to have multiple of these lights in your project, and you want different lights to be of different materials or something like that. So let's just leave it as that. Okay, so now let's go back to front elevation. So this is what it looks like. And because we've attached everything with those little locking symbols, if I go over here and just change the height of this reference plane, as you can see, we're going to be able to change the height of this thing as well. Okay, so once we've created this, now we need to make some additional adjustments just to get that light. So if I go here into 3D, now let's create a void that's going to be cutting into this light housing to give us that light diffuser, that usually that transparent part of the light, that transparent plastic or glass that you get on the light, just to kind of usually as just protection for the actual light bulb or for the actual LEDs inside. So for that, let's go here to create, and we're going to be using void forms for that. And for void forms, just open up the drop menu and go with void extrusion. Now we need to set a work plane on which we're going to be working, and I suggest you just go here to set and then go pick a plane, go OK, and let's pick this face over here. So this vertical face, that's where we're going to be cutting out our the space for our diffuser. So let's choose that one, and then I suggest use pick lines, and let's give it an offset of 5 millimeters. So just go 0.5 centimeters, and then you go from here, and as you can see, if you zoom in, you get this little dashed blue line. So you can go to either side of this bottom face. So let's go like this, here like that, here like that, and you do it on all sides except on the top where you're actually going to be going upwards. So if I go over here, let's see, can I go upwards? Okay, it isn't allowing me, but actually we want to go like this, a bit upwards. So let's use this dimension line and go like that, and yeah, it should be 0.5 centimeters upward, because we want to actually cut into this thing, because here we're going to get another void. So one of those needs to go through this part, so let's just go with this one. And now just go trim and extend. TR is the shortcut, or you can go over here on the modify tab, and we just need to clean these lines up a bit. So just clean that, zoom in over here, clean that, and here clean this. Okay, so once we have this, here for the extrusion end, I'm just going to go, instead of this 25 centimeter, I'm going to go with minus 0.5 millimeters or 0.5 centimeters, and just go apply, hit finish, and as you can see, okay, we're going in the wrong direction, so let's just go back, and instead of minus, let's go with 5, just 0.5, hit apply, okay. Okay, now it's going in the right direction, and if I deselect, yeah, that's how it's going to go. So whenever you select a face, you're not going to really be sure on which side it's going to go. Sometimes when you select it, you might need to go minus 0.5, sometimes you're just going 0.5, or just a positive number or a negative number, depending on where Revit chooses to go with the plus numbers and with the minus numbers. So in this case, it's going to be just 0.5, but in some other case it might require you to go minus 0.5, and then it's going to go to the right side just to cut out this void. Okay, so we've got this shape cut out. Now let's do the top of this. So let's see, and here we've got a problem, I think. Let's see. Okay, no, we don't have any problems. It's cutting all the way through. Yeah, now let's do this horizontal part. So for that, let's go back to create, void extrusion, and let's go with set work plane, pick a plane, go OK, and select that one. And now let's go with pick lines again, give it an offset of 0.5 centimeters. Do one over here, one over here, one over here. And for this one, we don't really need an offset, so just put the offset back to 0, click there. And there we go. Now trim and extend, or just over here in the modify tab, trim and extend. And there we go. Let's fix this up as well. And let's leave it at 0.5. Let's see what happens. Okay, it's going in the right direction once again, so that's good. And as you can see, now we've got that thing cutting all the way through this part as well. Okay, so once we have those, so we need to create that diffuser. Now for the diffuser, I want the diffuser to be flush with the outside of this shell, or with this face over here. So for that diffuser, let's just go to create, and let's just create another extrusion. So just go here to extrusion, set work plane, pick a plane. Now you can use this exterior plane, or what I like to do is just use this interior one, the one that's actually cut out. And then we can use with pick lines and just pick these lines like that. Okay, and let's see. So you can pick this line here at the end of this, and then just go trim and extend, trim that. Okay, and just leave it at 0.5, hit finish, and there we go. Now it's flush with this thing. Now for this material, the light material, you can create it as a parameter, but what I prefer to do is I like to create it as a light emitting material. So what does that mean? Well, that means that when we load it into a rendering, this is always going to be glowing. It's not really going to be casting any light unless you're using V-Ray for rendering. So just creating regular renderings, it's just going to appear as it is lit up, but it's not going to be casting any light. So let's just change the material for this, and let's just go here and just do regular material change. And you need to go here to glass, and then just scroll a bit, and here you have glass, white, high luminance. So just load that into your project, and here for appearance, you're going to notice that we have this self-illumination option, and here we can set the actual color of the light, the luminance type, or the color temperature. All of those settings, you have options for those. So just make sure you find one of these materials that has self-illumination and that it is turned on, and just hit apply. Okay, so now this is going to light up in renderings. Now it's time to do these two, and I'm not actually going to do it in the same way that I did this one. And the reason for that is because, as you can see over here, we only have one light source for this. So this is only going to be casting light from this top part down, but we also have these two bars that are going to be casting light horizontally like this. So they're just going to be casting light in this direction. Now because they're both glowing in the same direction, what we can do is a bit of a trick just to save a bit of time and keep the complexity of this family to a minimum. What we can do is create this as one family that we're going to be loading into this project, and that family is going to be containing a secondary light source as well as this light emitting material for the diffuser for this lamp. Now for that, let's start off with creating that secondary family. So just go here to File, New, let's go with a family, and it might be a good idea to save this project, so let's just save it at the desktop. So I'm just going to call this a freestanding light. Okay, so I'm just going to save this. And now let's start off with choosing another template for our secondary light source family. So just scroll down over here, find that lighting fixture, the default metric lighting fixture. Again, we're going to choose that one. Just go here, new, and there we go. So we've got this thing. Let's go to the front. Yeah, again, we have this light source. We've got this light source elevation. We can bring it down a bit. Actually, I'm going to bring it down to half of that previous lamp. So that was at 1 meter. So let's bring this down at 500 millimeters. So that's half a meter. Okay, so now for this one, we want it to be kind of casting light to the side. So let's just go maybe to the right elevation. And if we zoom in over here, there's that light source. And now around this light source, we need to create that L shape for our diffuser that's going to be made out of light emitting material. So before we can start modeling it, we actually need to get the right dimensions for that. So let's go back to this family over here that we have, and let's go here to the right elevation, and here we have a good right view of our light. And let's just go with the measuring tool, and let's measure from here to here. That's going to be 59 centimeters. And now just go measure to the top. And that, in this case, it's going to be 116.5. But before we measure that top one, let's check this height. So this is now at 110. I actually want it to be at 100. So you just need to double check that. And now we're having some problems with our void, so let's fix that. So just go edit extrusion, and let's bring it up over here. So you need to double check. When I played around with the height of that elevation symbol, I didn't return it to the right position. So you just need to double check everything during working if you mess up like I did over here. Okay, so this is back in place, and okay, so we got that void, and let's remeasure this now. So this is still 59. Yeah, we didn't make any changes over there, but for this height, let's zoom out a bit. Okay, it's 106.5 centimeters. So that's 106, and here we have 59, and the offset from the ground is 5 millimeters. So let's go to our new family. Here it is. So just go here to create, extrusion, and then start off with just a line. So just go one line like this, one line like that, and we can actually just create kind of the outline. It's not going to be the correct measurements, but that's how Revit usually works. You just sketch out the basic shape that you want to have, and then you just adjust the dimensions. So for the ground offset, let's go with 0.5, or sorry, 5 millimeters. Yeah, this is in millimeters. Let's change the units to centimeters to avoid any further confusion. So just go here to centimeters. Okay, okay, again. Okay, so this offset should be at 5 centimeters because the total one is 6. And here for this thing, it should be going from here. It should be, let's set it at 30. Okay, now measuring from this thing to this thing, let's go like that. This should be 59. Okay, that's now accurate. This thing should be at 5 centimeters, and the top should be, okay, measuring from the bottom like that. This should be at 106.5 if I remember correctly. Okay, so we've got that L-shaped diffuser, and if I just hit finish, let's go now go to front elevation, and as you can see, it's again, this is 25 centimeter extrusion. Now for this one, we want it to be kind of going to the other side. So here for the extrusion end, I'm just going to go with minus 0.5 centimeters or 5 millimeters. And again, I don't like my my light source symbol or to be kind of flush with the face of this thing, even though when we go into 3D it's not really in the same position. I just think it's good practice to kind of give it a bit of an offset. So let's just go to front elevation, and here for extrusion start, let's give it a minus 0.5 centimeter offset. Okay, then we have to first change this to -1 centimeter, and then this to -0.5. Yeah, there we go. So this is now offset. Now, once we have this finished, let's go back into 3D. Yeah, looks good enough. And let's just change the material, and then we can load it into the project. So just go here to material, and let's find that same glass material. Now, as you can probably notice, the material isn't really loaded in here. That's because this is a new family, so we have to reload that material for this one. Just find glass white high luminance. This is just the default material that comes with pretty much any version of Revit, so you should have it on your computer. Load it into the project, hit apply. Okay, there we go. Now just go here, load into project, and here we go. So you can just place it kind of like that, and then we can play around with it. So if I'm just going to go into 3D and let's see what that looks like. So yeah, as you can see, here's our light, and here's that light source symbol family that we have. Now for this, let's set it in the correct position. So let's go back into reference level. Let's select move, select this point over here, and let's move it over here. And if we just go into 3D, let's see, is that fitting correctly? If I select it, usually when you have materials like flush like this, it's probably a good idea just to select them, just so it highlights in blue, and then you can just see what that looks like. Okay, it's in the correct position, so that means we've modeled it correctly. So that looks good enough. So we have this secondary light source. Okay, so once we have this family all set up as far as geometry goes and light sources, now we need to do the kind of the back end. We need to set up all of the lights, light source symbols. We need to set all of the parameters for those, and then our family will actually be functioning. Okay, so what are some of the things that we need to set up for these light families? Well, first you need to plug your light in somewhere. So for that we need to add kind of a plug. So just go here to create, and we're not going to actually be modeling the rope or the cable or stuff like that. We just need to add electrical connector, just so when electricians or electrical guys, whoever is doing the electrics in Revit, come and do their calculations, they need to have their electrical connection so that everything can be connected within the project. So you just go here to electrical connector, select it, and here I just go with place on face. And then you need to find a face where you think a connection would work. So in this case, I would either go to the bottom face like this, or this face over here. So let's just go with this one. And you get just this green circle, and don't worry, this won't appear in renderings or anything like that, or when you load it into project. This is just how it appears on the family when you're modeling it. So we've got this electrical connection, and now we can start playing around with light source symbols. Now, if you're working this for a light manufacturer, you're probably going to get your photometric IES file. Now, that's going to give you the best render appearance when working in Revit, and because we don't really have a manufacturer for this, this is just some light that I have, that I'm modeling. Let's just pretend we have a manufacturer, and I'm just going to be showing you all of the steps that you need to do to create this. So just go here for this light source, select it, just select that yellow circle, and go to light source definition. And here we have some options. Now first select the shape of the light. I just go here with a linear shape. I know you might define it as a rectangle, but it's more of a line than a rectangle, so let's just go with a line. And here for the light distribution, you have an option for a spherical, half spherical, spot, and here we have photometric web. Now, what this photometric web is going to allow us to do is load in our own IES file. IES files, or these photometric web files, is what those light experts do when they test out light and how their light bulb is casting light in a room or something like that. So this is some high-end technical stuff, and I don't really understand it all that well, but you're going to usually get from your manufacturer or from someone who knows how that works, you're going to get that IES photometric web file, and in order to be able to load it in, just select this and hit apply. Okay. Now, as you can see, the light source symbol has changed a bit, and if we go over here for the family types, you're going to notice that we have over here this photometric web file, and it's currently set to generic. But if I just cancel out of this, and let's change this back to maybe, I don't know, like spherical, hit apply, okay, and if I go here to family types, as you're going to notice, we don't really have that option for that photometric file. So photometric web file. So that's why we need to set this to this type of light distribution. Hit apply, okay, and there we go. Now let's go here to family types, and now this is where we're going to be making all of the adjustments. Now the first thing, let's load that photometric web file in. Now luckily in Revit you get a bunch of these IES files. These are those photometric webs. Now I'm just going to search for something that works. I don't know, let's just select one of these, doesn't really matter. We're just finding a generic lamp IES file. Let's go, I don't know, with this one, hit open, and now it's loaded in. And if I hit apply and go OK, as you're going to be noticing, we get that file loaded in. Now don't worry when they appear a bit weird off to the side, it doesn't really matter. If it's pointing down, that's okay. And here just change this tilt angle to 90 degrees just to go straight top down. Okay, there we go. So now as you can see, that is fixed. Now if we select it, yeah, so it looks all right. Now let's go back to our family types. Let's make some further adjustments. Now you can change here, this is the line length, this is that line, and it's currently at 60.96, but we actually need to change it to something a bit smaller. So the whole light bar is 60 centimeters minus that little 5mm offset on each end, so that's going to be 59 centimeters. So let's change that. Next thing that we need to change is apparent load. Now this we're not going to have this information for this lamp because I'm just making it out of my head, but if you're working for a manufacturer, you can actually ask them what's the apparent load, and probably in most catalogs for lighting, if it's a good website, they're going to give you the apparent load for the light that you want to model, and you just type that number over here. So let's just say it's, I don't know, 20 amps or something like that. Now also for the light intensity, this is going to determine in renderings how bright the light is going to be. Here you can change it. Now depending on the manufacturer, they're going to give you either a luminance flux or luminance intensity or luminance. So these are basically different ways of entering the wattage of the light now, or the strength of the light. Now most manufacturers that I've worked with so far usually just go with wattage and efficiency. So for this one, let's just use that. Maybe let's change the wattage to, I don't know, 20 just to make it a bit higher. And if I hit OK, it's going to finish all right, but in some cases this doesn't work. So you change something over here, you hit OK, and it gives you a warning, and it says that you cannot change it. The reason for that is when you load the photometric web file, sometimes Revit is going to have a hard time adjusting the photometric web file to this here initial intensity. So what you can do is just change this back to default. So let's just find D for default, or generic, sorry. Yeah, you find the generic and you set it to generic, then you adjust this wattage, maybe go to 30 and hit OK, and now go back here and search for the one that you want to use. I don't know, I think we used this one in this case. Okay, so just in case it doesn't work, it doesn't want to change these numbers, it might be due to the photometric web file. But if you change the numbers first and then you set the photometric web file, then it works. That's just a bit of a bug in Revit that sometimes happens. Then for the initial color, usually you probably know about this when you're buying probably LED light bulbs or something like that. Just the number over here, 4000 is usually like the most natural like white light that people like to use, so you can go with that, or you can go with one of these presets. So maybe set one of these. Xenon is like really bright, or halogen is a bit more yellowish, or you can go to custom, and I just like to keep it at 4000. Most of the lights I modeled so far were 4000. I did mostly like LED lighting for offices, stuff like that. So in those cases you're going to go with 4000 or above to get more of that white light. And if you're doing something for just use in residential buildings, for maybe a living room or something like that, or a bedroom, you would probably go with a more yellowish light, just because it's more comfortable in those types of environments. Okay, so once we've set this up, again, you can go over here to electrical, and here you can make some changes if you know some voltage components or something like that, if you get that from the manufacturer. In this case, I don't really have any information, so I'm going to leave it out. But the apparent load, that's the most important one. That's what the electrical guys are going to need when they're doing those calculations that they do. Now, one more thing, here we have this light shell material, so let's just change that to some plastic, perhaps, or aluminum. Yeah, let's go with aluminum, and let's see what we have. Maybe open this up a bit, like that. Let's see, do we have something brighter? Well, let's go with this one. No, looks good enough. Hit apply, okay. Apply, okay, and let's go here to realistic. Yeah, so we've got our aluminum light lamp, and here, as you can see, this material. Now, because this being a glass material, it's going to appear a bit transparent, but don't worry, when you render it, it's actually just going to be glowing, so you won't actually be able to see this aluminum in the background. Now let's make some changes to complete our secondary family secondary light source family. So I'm just going to select it and go here to edit family, and it's immediately going to take us to our family. This is how it looks like. Now again, first just select the light source symbol, go here into light source definition. Again, we're going to make this perhaps a rectangular one, because as you can see, it's kind of half of a rectangle, that L shape, and then here go just for a photometric file. Then just hit apply, okay, and this was what we get. So it looks a bit weird at the moment, but don't worry, we're going to make some changes. So first let's go over here, and here for the tilt angle, as you remember, the last one we did at 90 degrees. This shouldn't be at 90 degrees, so that means straight down. But if we just set it to 0 and hit apply, okay, now it should be pointing in the right direction. Again, we can't really see that until we change that photometric web file or load that IES photometric web file in. So before we do that, let's set here the intensity. So for the wattage, let's go with, I think I did 30 for last one. So let's go with that. And for the apparent load, because this is a secondary family, it's in a nested family, it's inside of that one, we don't really need to set the apparent load, because it's only going to be reading the apparent load from the final family. And on that one, we've already set that one, so we don't have to make any changes. The only changes that I will make is just over here, change the light color from 3000 to 4000 Kelvin, just to make it the same type of a light, or same color of light. And now let's load that IES file in, so let's use the same one, hit apply, and let's see what we get. Okay, so it's pointing at the wrong direction, so we don't need 0, we actually need minus or 180 degrees. So let's just go over here and do 180, hit apply, okay. Okay, now it's pointing at the right direction, and I actually like this. The only problem is this rectangle, it's facing it the wrong direction, so what I'm actually going to do is just change it from a rectangle to a line. I think it's yeah, it's going, or maybe even to a point. Yeah, it's going to be better. Okay, so we've got that set. And now we can load this into our project. Just double check that material is already set, and it is. So just go load into project, and of course save it before you do that. So I'm just going to save it on desktop. Let's just call it freestanding light. And let's add maybe dash second light source. And go save. Okay, and now it's loaded in over here. Now because it's a new family, it actually, we need to exchange this one, so let's just delete the existing one and let's move this one in place because we changed the name, so it appears as a new family. Oops, wrong place. So let's just place it, yeah, over here, and let's just go into 3D. Yeah, let's save this one as well, and let's see what this looks like. Now if we set it back to maybe hidden line, yeah, now we can see both light source symbols, and as you can see, one is pointing in this direction and one is pointing from top down. So when we place this in a scene, it's actually going to be casting light in a way that we prefer. Okay, so this is pretty much done. So the only thing we need to do is now load this into a project and test it out in a rendering. So just go here to create or file, a new project, and let's just use the architectural template for this one. And let's create a fictitious room just to test it out. So just go with a rectangle like that. Maybe make it a bit more narrower, like this. Okay, and let's do a floor just to have something to bounce the light off of, like that. And I'm just going to go into 3D, yeah, finish, and let's just duplicate that floor instead of a ceiling. So just go here to copy, to clipboard, paste, align to selected levels, and go with level 2. And maybe bring down level 2 a bit, just to have a lower ceiling. So let's do it to 60. Like that. And now we can attach these walls. So just hover over one of them, hit the tab key, go attach top base, and attach to this. Now I'm not going too much into detail with this room, just somewhere to test our light in. So let's just go to level 1 and let's place our light over here. So just go to one of these lights. Okay, here, this is the light, and just go load into project. Make sure you go with project 2, or just make sure you go load it into a project and now not into that second family. Go OK, and here it is. Let's just place it in space like that. Now if I select it, as you can notice over here, we have that light source. So this is where we can adjust that, or sorry, that electrical connector. So we can attach it over here, and as you can see, now it's saying 0 watts and 0 watt hours. But if you go back into your family, not this one, yeah, this one, you can select it and you can actually make those changes over here. So you can add the voltage and the apparent load over here for that electrical connection symbol. So just make sure you add those, or you can kind of connect it to your parameter. So maybe you can go here to associate with the parameter, go apparent load, okay, and now as you can see, it's pulling information from the light source, and it's saying 20 watt amps or whatever unit that is. Okay, so let's go back into our project. Yeah, here it is, and let's create a camera view for rendering. So just go camera like this, perhaps. There we go, we've got our light, and let's angle it a bit down just to see, like that. Okay, so now we can test it out. So just double tap R for rendering, and this is going to be just a test, so maybe go with medium. Now, usually for tests, I go with draft, but when you're doing interior lighting or any light sources that are not the sun, Revit really does it ugly when you're at the draft. So if I was doing this for a project, I would go with high or maybe even best, but for now, let's go with medium for just testing. And maybe we can go to printer just to make it a bit larger, not too large. And here for the lighting, let's do it interior, artificial only. And you can make some settings over here. So for the dimming, you can go from 0 to 1. I usually go with 0.5 for this dimming. And let's try it out and hit render. And as you can see, in this case, it's way too bright. So I like to fix that just by going here to adjust exposure and then you bring that down to maybe a bit darker, even more. Yeah, there we go. Maybe something like that. Okay, and as you can see, it's going to be casting light from this side as well as this side. Just hit OK. There we go. And as you can see, probably over here, okay, maybe you can't see it all that well, but this material over here is lighting up in white, and it's different to the rest of the material. Now, lights in Revit usually don't appear that well when rendering. That's just something that's problematic with Revit, but if you set everything right, it's going to appear as close as possible to realistic. But again, Revit is not really a software that's used for all that accurate renderings. It's just for a good enough representation of your project. Now let's model a LED strip family. Now, in a lot of projects, I've been showing you how to create like fake LED strips in Revit, but it usually required loading in a single like point light family and then just copying it or arraying it around the project, and it really creates complex projects, and there's way too many lights, and it really slows down Revit, and it doesn't work all that well. So for this advanced lighting course, I would like to create a family that's a light strip family, and for that we're going to be creating a nested light source family that's going to be nested within a line-based family. So just a line-based family, that's a family that you can kind of place as a line in Revit, and you can actually kind of, it's an adaptive family, so it has that adaptive parameter for length, and we're going to be loading that in, so you can add that strip, light strip in. So let's start off here with a new family, and first I like to start with the end family and then do all of the hosted families. So just go here to new, and here let's go with a generic line-based family. So just go generic model line-based, open it up, and this is what we have. So we have this starting point and we have this end point, and here we have a reference line, and if we go into 3D it looks like this. This is that reference line, and if we go here to family types, you can see we have this parameter, and this is one of those adaptive parameters. So let me just show you real quick how this works. So if I go here into reference level, let's create a simple extrusion like this. Okay, and let's just lock it on each side. So lock it in place there, lock it in place here. Okay, so we have this simple extrusion. Go in 3D, maybe make it a bit smaller. Okay, so we have that simple extrusion, and the length of it is, in this case, if we go back into reference level, it's just 1.2 meters or 1200 millimeters. But if we load it into a project, so let's just start a new project real quick, an architectural project. Okay, architectural template project, and let's maybe create a wall like this on which we would host our fictitious LED strip family. And let's go back here, load this into the project, and go into 3D. As you can see over here, we can go place on face, and then we just select this wall face, and then we can place this family that we've created, and we can do it at any angle and at any length. Or we can go maybe to a floor or a ceiling, maybe even better. So let's sketch ceiling. So let's go, I don't know, like this. I don't know, let's sketch a ceiling like that. Who cares? Just trying to demonstrate this. And now you can go back to that same family, pick a face, pick this face, and as you can see, just place that LED strip. Or in this case, it's just a simple extrusion, but once we're done with the family, it's going to be an LED strip. So that's how these basically these line-based families work, and it's a really good platform for creating something like this, in this case an LED strip. So I'm just going to delete all of this, we don't really need it, and let's go back to our family. Okay, here we go, and let's delete this extrusion, we don't need that either. Okay, so for creating this family, we need a light source, a single point light source, then that's going to be multiplied multiple times over the length of this line, and that's going to appear as our LED strip. And for that, let's go here to File, let's go with New, Family, and let's just cancel out of this. And now let's search for another generic lighting fixture, so that's this one, and just go open. Now for this one we just really need the light source, and what I'm going to be adding, just an additional thing, is just some geometry that's going to help us locate this in the project. Now the problem with these light sources is when you load them into your project, you can't really see them, or you see them but they're really vague and it's hard to pinpoint their center. So what I prefer to do is to add just a little bit of geometry just to orient myself in space. So first let's set up the light source. So I'm just going to go here to light source, and let's go with point. Let's go with just the photometric web and just go apply. Okay, again. Now let's go here to family types, and we're going to basically be doing the same settings, and here just set this to, let's say, 4000 Kelvin. Let's set this to 90 degrees so it goes straight down. Hit apply, and one more thing, let's just hit OK for now, and just go to here the front elevation. And as you can see now we don't really have the photometric web, so we don't know on which side this is pointing at. So let's go over here and add a photometric web file. Let's go with, I don't know, one of these. Let's go with this one perhaps. Hit open and then hit apply. Okay, so as you can see over here it's pointing down, but when we place it in our line-based family, we actually want it to be pointing up, because that's kind of placed, that's a face-based family. So we just need to rotate this around. So just go here to family types again, and instead of 90, let's try minus 90. Let's see, apply. Okay, now it's pointing upward, and we can bring this all the way down to something like, I don't know, like 5 millimeters. Yeah, that works fine. And let's just go to reference level, and here let's add just a small piece of geometry. So I just go with extrusion with a simple circle, and let's do something like, I don't know, like a let's go with a 5 millimeter or 4 mm, let's go 3 millimeter diameter circle. Yeah. And as you can see now we get this warning. What it's actually saying is that a light source is inside of solid geometry, so no light will be emitted during rendering. So what does this mean? If we go here to front elevation, as you can see, this extrusion that we've created is going directly through our light source symbol. So that means that the light source is trapped inside of this geometry, and that's why we get that warning, because if we render this, it will have, it's like a light bulb that's cast in concrete. You can't really see the light from outside. So what we need to do is we need to just make this smaller. So let's make this, I don't know, something like 2 millimeters. Yeah, so that works. So we've got some geometry just to help us out, and we have our light source, and that's pretty much it. That's all we need. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to load this into the family, but before that let's just save it, and let's call it, let's go to desktop, and let's just call it 1 LED, so that this is just one light emitting diode. And let's just load this into the project. Let's go with family 5 in this case. We still need to name this family, so let's just place it like this over here, or maybe move it off to the side a bit. Yeah, I usually like to move it off just to the side, and then we'll fix it. And here let's go with hidden line. Yeah, okay, so we've got this, or yeah, when you're in hidden line you can't really see that geometry, so yeah, let's go back to wireframe, it will be better. Okay, now before we do anything, let's just save this family so we don't mess it up. So just go to save, and let's call this LED strip. Hit save. Okay, so now to place it on this here reference line, we need to use the align tool. So just go AL for align, or find it here in the modify tab, align. Here it is, and you just select the reference line first, then you hover over this little button that we have, our geometry, and you're going to have one horizontal and then later on one vertical line. So you just go over the horizontal line, click, and then lock it in place. Then you go over this here reference plane, and then you go over this vertical line, again lock it in place. Okay, so once we have that, this is now locked in place. And just to make sure that everything looks all right, let's go to front elevation, and let's just see. You just need to make sure that the light source is basically above this line, because if it's below this line, it will be embedded into the surface on which it is placed, and that's really not something that you want to have. Okay, so now let's create a bunch of these for our strip, and let's just go back to reference level, select it, go here to array, or you can use the shortcut AR, and here make sure that it's a linear array. You have an option to group and associate. You don't have to use it. I just like to keep it on for something like this. Now here you have an option to move to second or to last. I'm going to go move to last, and for the number, let's just do it something like 10, number 10 for now. Okay, so now you select the basically wherever you want to select this. I'm just going to go with the middle point, and then just go all the way here, just close to the end. Okay, so as you can see, we have a bunch of these now. We have 10 of them, and here we need to lock this one in place just to constrain our whole array. So just go with AL for align, select that reference line, select the center line, lock it in place. Now select the end reference plane, select this line, lock it in place. Okay, so this looks decent enough. Now there's only 10 of these, and it looks like it's emitting a lot of light, but yeah, let's say we want to have one at every, I don't know, like 10 centimeters or something like that. So for that, what we need to do is we need to go here to family types and set some parameters. But before we do that, we need to have a parameter, and this number of lights is going to be a parameter. So you just need to select this dimension and then give it a label. So you just go here to label, and then you have none or add parameter. So you're going to go to add parameter to create a new parameter for this. So let's just call it, I don't know, let's call it number of lights. So like that. Make sure that you can leave it as a type parameter or an instance. Let's go with an instance parameter. Maybe it can change from instance to instance. Go OK. So we've got that instance parameter. Then let's go here to family types. And for family types, we only have this number and we have the length. Now here we have a formula option. Now I'm going to be talking about formulas more extensively in some of the future courses that I do here. But for now, let's do a simple formula. So let's say that this number of lights needs to be some kind of connected to this length of our line-based element, or that line from which we're creating this light strip. So for the length, we need to maybe divide length into certain number of into a certain number, and then we're going to have the number of our lights. So let's say we want to have a maybe a light every 10 centimeters. We can just create a formula. So we go here, it says length, so we need to just copy that and just make sure that this is cap sensitive, so make sure that's a large L and then N and then E and GTH. Okay, so once we have that, you don't have to copy this default in parentheses, that doesn't matter. Then we can go like divided by, I don't know, 100, which is 10 centimeters, and hit apply. Now as you can see, it's taking this parameter, this number of 1200, and it's dividing it by 100, and we're getting here 12. And if I hit apply, okay, there we go. So it's placing one LED diode every 10 centimeters. And if we go here into reference level and maybe extend this a bit, it's going to add more lights. And if we go now here, as you can see, now we have 22 lights because it's 2200, and just go OK, and that's fine. So there you go. Now we have all of these lights. Now you can add perhaps a maybe if we go here to create, you can add a electrical connector. So that's one of the things you can do. So just go to 3D and just find the first one, and you can add your electrical connector there. So just go electrical connector, and there we go. So if you want to have that, you can have it there, and here you can add some voltage, the apparent load as well, and you can create this as a parameter. Here we have these LED diodes that appear every 10 centimeters, so maybe we can use that as a parameter for apparent load. So maybe we can say that one of these is like 5 volt amps or whatever this is. So you can go here and create a parameter for that. Now I'm not really good at electrics, so I'm just showing you how to use Revit to connect this, and if I'm making some mistakes as far as electricity goes, sorry about that. So you can create a new parameter, and you can call it just the apparent load parameter. Okay, and yeah, let's just go okay again, and then here we can go to family types, and we can use this parameter. So you just go desired number of lights, and you go Control C to copy, and then you go here to Control V to paste, and we can do just the asterisk sign and then 5. So when we click out, so that's going to be 5 wall times per every LED light that we have here. And if I hit apply, okay, as you can see now, if we select this, it's going to actually get us that parameter. So just by placing this family inside of your model, based on the length of the family, you're going to get a different parameter over here. So you can parameterize pretty much everything in Revit like that. Now let's test this out in a model, and I'm going to be using a recessed ceiling for for a family like this. So let's start a new project. So just go File, New, Project, and let's maybe use architectural template for this. And here we go. Okay, so here we got a project, and let's place some walls. So just go with a simple rectangle like this for walls. Okay, hit finish. Then let's add a floor. So just a rectangle for a floor. Hit finish. Okay, there we go. So now we need a ceiling, and we're actually going to be doing 2 ceilings. So let's go here to ceiling plan, and let's do one of them. So ceiling, and here we have an offset parameter. It's set to 2600. Let's say that's okay. And here I'm just going to go with a generic ceiling, and just go like this, automatic ceiling. Click once, and there you go. It's in place. We can't really see it because it's just on the edges, but it's there. Now let's do a second ceiling, but this is going to be a sketch ceiling, and let's place this one maybe, I don't know, something like 10 centimeters below that one. So let's go with 10. So that's 2500. Hit OK. Just do one rectangle over here, and then let's give it an offset of, I don't know, something like 300 millimeters, and then another rectangle on the inside. So you just hit space once, and you flip it on the inside, and you hit finish. Now the thing is with these ceilings, if I go here with a section and cut a section through it and open it up, yeah, if we go here to find, these default ceilings are usually really thin. So I'm just going to select both of them and maybe go with this metal stud ceiling. Yeah, that might be too thick. So let's try this one. It's a bit thinner. And yeah, let's bring this one a bit lower still. So maybe 45. So 245. Let's try that one out. Okay, that works. So we've got this ceiling over here. Maybe if I turn off thin lines, yeah, that's what it looks like. And usually we have some barrier here, so let's create a very thin wall for that. So let's go back to ceiling level, and here we can see our ceiling. And now just go with a wall, a generic wall, but let's go into edit type and duplicate it, and let's do a generic wall that's a lot smaller. So let's do a 50 millimeter wall, and let's just change here this to 50. Hit OK again. Now you're going to do a rectangle, and let's just do a rectangle that goes from here with an offset of something like, I don't know, let's go with 50 millimeters as well. So go from this here point to this here point. Okay, there we go. So now if we go here into this view, as you can see, we've got this wall, but it's way too large. So if I just go to select it, I can just select one of them or hover over one of them and hit the tab key, and now it selects all 4 walls, even though we can't really see one of them because it's behind the section, but don't worry, it's selected. And here for the height, let's do the base offset from a level 1 to be something like 250. Let's see, 2500, sorry. Yeah, so as you can see now it's going from here all the way to something like, let's say it's unconnected, and maybe we can connect it to level 1. And here for the top offset, let's go with 2600. hit apply, and there we go. So we've got this small wall that's really closing off this space, and on that wall we're going to be placing our family, or our line-based family. So in this case, it's going to go on this wall over here, and it's going to go from this side all the way to this side. So for that, let's load our family in. So let's see. Okay, not that 3D. Okay, this one. Let's go load into project, and let's load it into project 4 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's the one. Go into our section first. Okay, here we go. And once we're here, let's go with component and then go pick a plane. Okay, so we're going to be picking, let's see. Can we select that wall? Okay, maybe it's too far away, so let's go like this. Yeah, it should be seen from here. If you can't do it really in a section, you can always do it in 3D. So let's try it out in 3D. Let's just bring these walls down. So let's select all of them and give them a height of, I don't know, something like 3000. Yeah. Okay, so we messed up one of these walls. So let's just change the parameters here as well. So let's go from 2500 to 2600. Okay, there we go. So now this is in place. And I'm just going to select the floor, and you can just go here to the temporary hide isolate, and let's hide this element. Now it's just going to make it a bit easier to place our family here. So just go now to our component. Here's our LED strip. Now we need to select a plane, so let's go from here. So you just go from this side, and because it's loading in so many of these LED lights, it's going to be a bit slow, but just stretch it all the way to the end. And as you can see, my computer is kind of slow at this point, but I'm just going to click once again, and there we go. If I hit finish, there we go. So we've got one of these strips, and let's test it out in a rendering. Of course, you would do them on both sides. Maybe let's do one more side. So let's go component from here, and then let's orbit to the other side. Zoom in into this corner. Yeah, as you can see, it's really slowing down my computer. And let's click there. Okay, go back. And now let's go to our level 1, and let's create a 3D view for that. So just go here to camera and create a 3D view like this. So there we go. It's looking straight at this. Maybe we can orbit around. So what I'm going to do is select one of these and then kind of orbit a bit down like that. So yeah, let's use this wheel, maybe look like this. Okay, so let's say this works. Of course, you can play around with the angle if you want. You can make this this wall maybe a bit shorter if you want. You can make it taller if you want, but that's just a thing of preference. And now let's try it out in a rendering. So just go double R for render. And here, let's go with medium. Let's go with artificial lights only, interior rendering. And here for the lights, let's go artificial lights. Yeah, and as you can see, we don't really have any lights. And the reason for this is we didn't really categorize our family in a right way. So how do you fix this problem? So I'm just going to cancel out of this, cancel out of the rendering, and go into my light family, if I can find it. Let's see. Okay, here it is. Now you have this family types, but above that you have family category and parameters. Now if you select that, if I scroll down a bit, you're going to see that here generic models is highlighted, but I'm going to scroll a bit down and go light fixtures and select that one and just double click, and there we go. So now if we open this up again, it's going to highlight lighting fixtures. And if I just go OK, load it into the project, let's go project 1. So we're just going to replace the existing ones. There we go. And let's go back to our 3D view that we've created. Go double R for render again. And as you can see now over here, we have each of those lights. And you can select them all just by going like this. Hold the shift key, select them all, and maybe type in 0.5 here. I usually like to leave dimming at 0.5. And if this isn't appearing over here, then one more thing you should probably check is to go to that family and make sure that it's a shared family. So when nothing is selected, make sure that here when it says under other, that it says shared. And the same thing for one of these light families. You need to go and open up the light family and just make sure that it says shared. That's just going to allow it to appear over here in, where's our 3D view? Yeah, when you go R for render and when you go here to artificial lights, that shared parameter is going to allow it to appear over here, everything as a separate light. So you can actually individually turn off one of these if that is something you desire for some reason. And I'm just going to hit OK, and now let's try rendering. So I'm just going to hit here render, and let's see what happens. And there you go, here we have a rendering. Of course, you can go into adjust exposure, maybe make it slightly darker, or you can go back into the light family and make some changes to the actual the intensity of the light, how much light it's emitting, change those watts or whatever. So you can make some additional changes, but that's generally how you create families like this. And now if we go in over here, we can select the family, and as you can see over here in this corner, we have this option where we can kind of plug it in. Well, people who are doing all of the electrics, and here we have electrical loads, and as you can see it says apparent load is 2600, 260. That's because we probably have, well, we certainly have 26 lights on this side, and if we select this one, yeah, as you can see we've got 36 on the other side because it's a bit longer. So that's how you create these families, and they're a lot easier to use than to create those individual ones and kind of place them in space. I think this works a lot better, and you can host it on any face in your project. So you can even place it on a wall. You can just go like this and kind of place LED lights like this on the wall, and when you render it's going to emit lighting from here. So it's a very versatile and a useful family to have for your projects. Okay, so that's pretty much it on how do you create these two types of lights in Revit. Thank you for watching, and I'll be coming with another course for you in a week. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.